The next thing I want to talk about is dampening or muffling on the timpani. To tell you the truth, I'm not a huge proponent of dampening or muffling on the timpani too much when you're actually playing within band or with an orchestra or percussion ensemble even. I like to try to let the drums ring out. Now you have to think about what that means. If you're in a band or orchestra, usually timpani is far back in the very back, right? Whether you're next to the basses in orchestra or you're next to the tubas in band, okay? And because of that, some of the dampening that you may try to do is not going to come through to the audience or even almost to the conductor. It's pretty far back. So the attack and the sustain of the drum is going to be, not as apparent as when you're playing timpani in a room and nobody else is playing and judges are sitting 10 feet away from you, okay? So that's a very important thing to understand. Because of that, that's when dampening or muffling becomes really important, because then you're very exposed, which means you want the drums to ring out individually as much as possible. So while I wouldn't dampen this much in a regular setting, in an ensemble setting, I certainly would when it comes to an audition setting. Now, what that means is at the time of attack, from one drum to the next, you want to try to dampen right at the point of attack of the other drum. So let me play an example for you. And when you dampen or when you muffle, all you have to do is lightly touch exactly where it is that you hit. So exactly in the striking area where you struck the drum is exactly where you want to dampen. If you dampen in another spot, you're going to get an overtone out of the drum and it's still going to kind of ring through. Now, here's the difference when I don't dampen. So especially at an interval like this, you really start to hear the waves in between the two pitches. Okay, that's why dampening is pretty important. Now, also talking about dampening, when you go to touch the drum to dampen, you want to make sure that, especially with heads like this that are textured heads, you have to be careful to not create a swiping sound. So we don't want to hit the drum and then hear that sound afterward, because now you're defeating the purpose of dampening, which is to actually just stop sound. Now you're creating a new sound as you swipe. So just touch, and the attack of the other drum when you hit is actually going to kind of mask any contact sound. Now I'm also a strings player, so I have calluses in my left hand. So when I dampen, I have to be careful, because you'll hear not too much here in this hand, but you will definitely hear it in my left hand. So I have to be really careful to dampen with a pad of my fingers, or with the inside of my hand rather than the fingertips. Okay. Some people also like to put some pressure on the head. You can do that as well. You just have to be a little bit careful that if it's a note that is by itself, let's say like the end of a note that might be like a quarter note or a half note, you have to be careful not to press too much, because then you will hear the pitch bend up. Okay. So those are some of the things to consider when dampening. There's a little exercise that I like to start with on just 2 drums that you saw me do before, which is you strike the drum, and then on the next strike of the next drum, you dampen this one. As you get better at that, add a 3rd drum, and then add a 4th drum. Okay? If your etude or piece might have a 5th drum, then add a 5th drum. Getting around the drums and dampening around the drums is an important skill, and that's something that you should definitely try to develop. I'm going to play a little bit for you. I'm going to add a drum as I go.